Spain 2, Canada 1. The Baby Reds journey is complete at the FIFA Women's Under 20 tournament in Colombia. Okay, I'm not going to sing, I promise. But let's talk about this real quick. So, guys, this is a video, not a stream. I recorded a podcast. I thought it was a podcast, but then it was a live stream. So I'm like, hey, I guess we're live on YouTube. But this is a recap video, just talking about it, guys. Let's talk about this game real quick. First of all, I mean, we're super proud of the Baby Reds. They played well against arguably the best team in the tournament, not named Brazil. I would argue that Spain is actually better than Brazil. And it was a tough matchup, but they held their own. They battled it. The ball just didn't break their way, unfortunately. And let's kind of talk about how we looked and how we saw this game going through. First, the lineup. We had Henning in goal with Otti, Marcassini, Okiki, and then Renee Watson is your back four. McBride, Geneva, Hernandez-Gray, Florian Jourde. In the midfield, Olivia Smith, Amanda Allen, and Naya Rose. So, two big changes from the back. You took Johnston out for Renee Watson. Or Johnson was out, but then you had Watson and McBride in. And I think that was an interesting move, knowing that you were probably going to be sitting back and defending against Spain. And the first half was that, right? Spain basically got the ball, and then they just started to pass their way through and create opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And they had to hold through. And I tweeted this during the game. I said, this feels like the type of game where Canada's going to win maybe 1-0 or 2-0, where they just got to weather the storm and win on the counter. They have to either weather it or they need to grow into this game. And that's kind of how the game was progressing. Then you enter the second half. And then, they made changes, as we will talk about here.
So in the 57th minute, Sneed High brings in Anaya Johnston. Why am I messing? Anyways, Anaya Johnston in the 57th minute for Ella McBride. He brings in Annabelle Chukwu for Naya Rose. And 6 minutes later, off a clearance that is bounced off a player, Johnson gets it, crosses it into Chukwu. Initial shot is saved. Florian Jourde comes in. Goal. Canada is up 1-0. At this point, I'm like, okay, cool. The subs came in, are impacting. Now we just have to settle in and just really survive. And I mean, the next sequence of play, Spain comes back and scores. And you're just like, well, it was nice while it lasted. I can't have nice things. All the things, all the statements. And it was just... It was interesting and it was tough. Now, interestingly enough, you go to the 70th minute. Sinitaya puts in a VAR request for a potential penalty to Canada, but it is not awarded. We did not do well with the VAR system. This whole new VAR system where coaches challenges someone to other sports, it just did not work in Canada's favor. Really, this tournament kind of sucks. That's what it is. So that happens. Spain makes a couple more subs, and in the 81st minute, honestly, it was deflating watching it, but then rewatching it, I mean, what a set piece. Spain scores. It's off of a corner. They play it out and play it deeper to one of the deeper line defenders. They cross it in, and the ball goes in. First player at the first ball chests it down and plays it to another player who cuts in, puts a shot on frame. It's 2-1. Beautifully executed set piece. It was one of those moments where it was like, oh, it hurts. But it was nice. It was nice, guys. It was honestly nice. Canada tries to come through. Kayla Breaks comes in for Renee Watson in the 86th minute. We get 6 minutes of additional time. It goes up to 7. The game is done. Spain moves on. We are there. And I think it's, where do you put this side? I think this side performed well, Canada-wise. I think these girls have nothing but pride for them. I'm nothing but proud of them, honestly. They played very well. And some players, you play them because, eventually the quality you think is going to come through. And others, they did. A lot of the big players really in that top front in that front four attacking, so forward and then that 10, everyone had a moment. And I kind of said this in the other video too. Everyone had a moment. Now Flojo gets her moment. I hope she doesn't mind me calling her Flojo. Florian Jourt, she gets her moment here. Olivia Smith had a moment. Nia Rose had a moment. Annabelle Chukwu had a moment. McBride had a moment. Janina Hernandez Gray, I think, played well for what they asked her to do. Amanda Allen, I think, should have had a moment, but wasn't able to slot any goals away. But she played well. She played well, but I think if you're looking at it like those flash moments, she's a player who didn't have that flash moment in this tournament. But I mean, if you're looking at this team and saying, "Hey, could we pool some of these players up to the?" Yeah, you could. If they continue to develop how they are, I am very much excited. Everyone in that front attacking group is excited. The problem for them is now they're no longer just fighting, say, with their age group. Now they're fighting with a bevy of professional players. And now, where do they get those opportunities? Where do they get those openings? How did I mess those words up? How do they get those opportunities? How do they get those openings? It's consistency now. They now have to outperform an entire pool of players, not just a pool of youth. And that's the reality with any youth system going to the national team. You're not playing with people under the age of 20 anymore. You're trying to compete with players who have been professionals all eyes, but players who are going. And so I think it's going to be very intriguing to see. I think with a lot of these players who did play in NDCs in Canada, it'll be very intriguing to see what happens on a NSL standpoint, Northern Super League. I mean, I know Drini of Hernandez Gray and a player who didn't feature too much in this tournament, Jamie Perrault, are two players who are considering, effectively said, yeah, maybe we'll go pro. I know we look at Olivia Smith, Jessie Fleming did it as well, but Olivia Smith's pathway, the 1 year of playing and then opening the doorway to go, I think is going to be a very prominent thing. And maybe instead of players thinking that you only have to go the collegiate route or maybe being good enough to move on, maybe that opens the door for them to say, hey, maybe the NSL for a year or two, and then from there we launch ourselves somewhere. Or maybe it's, hey, a year of collegiate, let me go to this other league here, and then from there we begin to really grow and progress. But this side has been together since the U17s, right? Most of the side has been with the U17. You look at some of the older U20s here, like Flojo, Olivia Smith, even Coralie Lallier, like those players were able to play at the U20 level as underagers, but the rest, this group had pretty much. I know McBride has been in and out of the program, but I mean Marcassini, Watson, Otti, Allen, Nia Rose, all those were together at the U17. Chukwu just jumped in as an outstanding 15-year-old, and she's going to be a good one. I know I saw Megan Johnson's article saying generational. She's going to be good. But now the question is, can you connect those aspects? I think if you want to look at the senior program in Canada, the middle is fine. So you're like, okay, what are you going to do with a Flojo? What are you going to do with Olivia Smith? I think it comes down to how do they see their system playing out. Because if they go back to a 4-2-3-1, where do you put players? Right now, the senior system's in that back three. So effectively that 3-4-3, or that 3-4-2-1. If you're going to play that box in that midfield, effectively having a 5-4-1 to a different degree, where do you see these players able to succeed, right? And Amanda Allen has to be able to perform out wide. And now she's going back to club. She just got to move down to the USL. So maybe getting more minutes gets her into more form, and then maybe that opens it up for her as she going. Because the Pride are playing well in the NWSL, and I don't know where she gets minutes other than spot minutes here and there. And Olivia Smith at the pool, Liverpool. It'll be interesting to see what she's able to do there this year. Flojo's in school, Nia Rose is in school, the rest of these girls are in school. And then Perrault, Geneva, Hernandez Gray, maybe going back to Vancouver for those Championship Cup games. But this entire group spent a lot of time together. And there's always those conversations of, hey, should they have done this? Should they not have done that? Let's see. I don't know. Faith Fenwick also in there. Lelier wasn't here. That was like one of my questions. Like, why wasn't she? But that's besides the point. And like, that's even bringing a players who aren't here. That generation of U17s, right? We haven't, like, we talked about it at the beginning of it, right? We say like the Chukwus came in. Chukwu came in because Rosa Malouf wasn't able to play. Now Malouf still balling at Texas, so that's another player who can come in. I would love to see a player like her like take that shot. But there's a lot of talent. Canada has never not had talent in terms of football, soccer. For those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, their pathways to development have always been so limited that if you couldn't get into one or two, it just felt as if you didn't exist. I think it'll be interesting as more pathways are developed, what that does. Even at the USL level, if you get a few players playing there, what does that do for the player? Because it's minutes that the players are looking for. Minutes, game reps, those things get you into form. That opens a doorway for you. And then from there, the sky's the limit. Super proud of this side, though. They made Spain work for it. Spain definitely did work for it. I think it's the only goal that's been scored against Spain in the entire tournament so far. So loved what we saw from the Baby Reds. But ultimately, it wasn't meant to be. Sad, but c'est la vie, et c'est la vie. And so that is the tournament that they played. Yeah, Spain beat the U.S. 1-0 in their group game. And then the next game, they beat Paraguay. And then, yeah, we were the first team to score against Spain. And that is amazing. So Spain's into the quarterfinals. Really quickly on the other matchups that happened yesterday. Again, Brazil coming back to beat Cameroon 3-1. Colombia 1-0 over South Korea. And then in the Classico of CONCACAF, Jordan Dudley in the 97th minute gets the U.S. over Mexico in a rematch of what feels like every youth level final. A good matchup, but the U.S. able to get the upper hand in that one, meaning that the U.S. is in the quarters along with Brazil, Spain, and Colombia. And we're very much looking forward to see who these teams are, how they break out. It's going to be very fun to watch, I think. I mean, Cameroon with Eto, sad that her tournament is done, but she played well, and Cameroon played well as well. So I'm curious to see how the rest of the teams go. Then you have Nigeria versus Japan tonight. Today you have North Korea versus Austria, which I think it's going to be lopsided. Germany v Argentina is always a game, but I think Germany is just going to walk through this one. And then France versus Netherlands, a nice UEFA matchup. U20s are still going to be lit. We're going to talk about them as we go. A shout out to us as we do. Also, we got a live coming up on Friday. Just letting y'all know. We're going to talk AFCON qualifiers and talk about U20s as well. So have no fear, guys. We'll jump on that. Until now, I'm going to stop talking now.